Hello, hello, truth seekers all over the world. This is Matthew from Back to Covenant. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you're at in the world. So, this is going to be episode number 12. We're really stacking them up at this point, and we're going to be discussing the question: is space real? And I'm blessed to have Josh from Found Earth Brothers again. This is a topic that he really destroys on his channel. So, make sure to subscribe to his channel. So let me say what's up to a couple people in the chat, and then we'll bring Mr. Josh on. What is up? Mark Yeager, Flat Earth Terra Farmer. Oh, I like that name. Sure, Jan. Hopefully I said that one right. All right, let's bring Mr. Josh on.
Hello, everybody.
What is up, sir? Hey, where are you? Where are you?
We are live currently from the International Fake Station. Everything floats up here. It's fun. We're always smiling, no matter how long they keep us locked up here.
Let's see your cup float.
Hey, this like I'm trying to it's hard to drink out of a floating cup. Yeah, just push it and it goes back. It's kind of hard to do.
Or you could reach for something and it's not there.
Yeah. I'm just gonna cast this over here. Yeah, the invisible virtual augmented reality.
Was that a lemon that one guy reached for and you couldn't grab it?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Somebody said,
"Do a flip."
Josh,
I've only got a few tricks I can do. You got to get your back really straight. That's what they do, and they kind of like stiffen up, and they start going. I'm actually probably going to tip over.
But you have to have somebody that'll grab your wire when you come back down.
Tug your harness.
Hey, I noticed your shirt doesn't look like this though. So
yeah, I need that. I need the the wire harness is tugging on my shirt.
Oh man. All right, so everybody knows who you are. So
of course,
we don't have to do the intro. Yeah, you're a famous astronaut in space. So let's jump into the presentation, and then mine first, and then yours second. So we got a decent amount to cover. So let's just jump into it. All right, but first we have to mention in how many days?
3, maybe.
What's the day?
Thursday.
Can Friday, you count Saturday? That high? I don't know if astronauts can count very high.
Yeah, that's not a requirement. You just have to be a high-level Freemason. You don't have.
I mean, Don Pettit, he's not very intelligent. He says some stuff that makes him in trouble, or he used to. So me and Josh are having a meetup in the big city of Ringo, Georgia. It's in North Georgia. It's just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and north of Atlanta. So the doors open at 12, and if you have any questions, if you need some kind of information on the schedule or whatever, I can. Now that we have a tentative schedule established currently, I can email that to you if you need to. If you have any questions. All right, got somebody in chat said they will be there. Awesome.
Heck yeah.
All right,
some familiar names.
Yeah, hopefully Incarnate. I think he said he'll be there. Maybe he'll bring that brisket again.
Heck yeah. That was a bomb. He saved the day because I really have no clue how big this one's going to be. Last time I did an exact number count, and this time I forgot to ask in the email. And so it's like, just let me know you're coming. And so they'll be like, bring in the family. So family could mean 10 people per person, or it could mean 3.
3.
So
yeah. So if you're watching and you're coming to the meetup, if you want to bring a food offering, that would be great, because we have no idea how many people will be there and how many people actually bring food. So that would be cool. But that's not obligatory. So here's the question we're going to look at, and let's get into it. As always, got to start with scripture, and we're going to start in the beginning, which is important if you're going to read scripture. So Genesis 1:6-8, and Elohim said, let a firmament come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the firmament and separated the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the firmament heavens, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. So we see from this verse that a firmament was above the waters, and it separates the waters from the waters below from the waters above. So let's keep this concept in mind the whole time during this stream and not forget it. Anything that we watch or look at. So here's the question we have to ask. to start this off, what is space? Now, of course, we're going to get mainstream sciences or pseudoscience or scientism, however you want to refer to them. We're going to get their definition of it. So this is space.com, so how appropriate. Quote, space is an almost perfect vacuum, nearly void of matter, and with extremely low pressure. In space, now let me read that first sentence again. We need to remember that as well moving forward. Space is an almost perfect vacuum, nearly void of matter, and with extremely low pressure. In space, sound doesn't carry because there aren't molecules close enough together to transmit sound between them. Not quite empty, bits of gas, dust, and other matter floats around emptier areas of the universe, while while more crowded regions can host planets, stars, and galaxies. So apparently some parts of space are crowded like the big cities.
Yep.
From our earthbound perspective, outer space is most often thought to begin at about 62 miles or 100 kilometers above sea level at what is known as the Kármán line. So they'll throw that term around from time to time on NASA and other channels, scientific channels. This is an imaginary boundary at an altitude where there is no appreciable air to breathe or scatter light. Passing this altitude, blue starts to give way to black because oxygen molecules are not in enough abundance to make the sky blue. And how much of that can they prove?
Wow.
Wow, he has nothing to say. He's so.
Oh, is you asking me a question about that? How can we prove that?
No, I was just saying, like all of that quote or all or most of that quote. How can they prove any of it?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You can't, and it's the frustrating thing too as well when you get into this as an outsider, someone trying to debunk the flat Earth and all of that. You go straight to the NASA footage, and that's what a lot of us did, and that's where I ended up compiling so much of their fraud in the early days because that's what they had, mountains of fraud. And there is limits to what you could find. A man back when this was all going on in 2015 called NASA and said he was doing a documentary. He didn't want to call like a conspiracy theorist. He told him, he kind of made up a story, and he said, all I need is some footage of Earth as a ball moving through space. And NASA themselves said, we don't have that footage. We just don't have that. Like after all these years, Earth is a ball. He said, I just want to see it, moving through space as a ball because that's what it's supposed to be doing. It is a ball moving in space. Like we should have it. And their answer was, we don't have that. And so that's frustrating. Then you have to go and look at these images and sort through it. It's quite the journey, but do it scientifically. People that are investigating it, it's not a conspiracy type of thing. Just look at it scientifically and try to prove it. And of course, it's tough because a lot of people don't have vacuum chambers at their home to experiment with, so it requires a lot of research. I mean, it's quite the journey, and it's easy to get obsessed with it, especially back in the old days when you could find this stuff. And now you have to look at our playlist where most of the things are just deleted, video after video, where it's like deleted. And so got to save that stuff and compile it. When I go through the links that I have saved from 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, it's like a battlefield. They're planned mine sweep back in the 90s. Stuff's gone.
Minesweeper. And we had a funny comment that Sharon said, no truth equals vacuum.
Yeah. Yeah, you've never seen, that's the thing about the vacuum. You've never seen someone go from a pressurized environment with a suit to the vacuum of space like they did in the Apollo mission so many times, because they would have puffed up. I mean, if you take a balloon and put it in a vacuum chamber, or even something that doesn't have a lot of air in it and let it set, it will expand. I mean, anything, marshmallows, blood will boil, all these different things happen. So we have no footage of someone doing that. Someone walking into a vacuum chamber, turning it on, letting it become a vacuum, except for one. There's one, or actually 2 times where this footage has actually been attempted. The first time the guy passed out. The second time it was this legit like news channel, saying, here it is, here's the footage. And while they're doing this and pretending to turn on the vacuum, there's a man in there with the guy with a fighter pilot type of helmet his face isn't even fully covered. He just has like a oxygen regulator over his nose and mouth in a vacuum chamber. So
Wow.
if you don't know anything about a vacuum chamber and what it does to your body, this guy would be dead. His blood will be boiling, and the other guys too probably. But in the vacuum environment, that stuff
Yeah, I've seen a
is
video
impossible.
about that. I've seen a video about the NASA astronaut that passed out.
Yeah, I mean,
I forget his name.
yeah, he said his saliva was starting to boil in his mouth, and he passed out, and he just fell
Wow.
back, and miraculously they saved the guy. And so,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think he was close to death though during that experience.
hmm yeah, very close.
So I got some funny memes that should be thought provoking for some people. Other people, I mean, if you don't have eyes to see, it doesn't matter what info is put in front of you. So speaking of a vacuum, pressure in a vacuum makes things explode. So here's a sprite on the left hand, and then I guess they turned the vacuum chamber on, and bam, and then and Mr. Bean on the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Mr. Bean.
Yeah, that astronaut would be swelling. I mean, like his suit would swell so bad going from interior to exterior. Even if you sucked as much of the air out of his suit as you can. Action Labs, that YouTube channel, has a lot of those types of experiments where they put what's called Vac Man. It's kind of like a version of Stretch Armstrong, but you can suck all the air out of him. And then he does that, puts him in a vacuum, and still he swells up like this big. I mean, just massive. And usually they end up exploding. It's pretty cool. The science behind the vacuum, how that works.
2 reasons this is impossible. Number 1, no combustion without oxygen. Number 2, no medium to push against in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And I have a video of a scientist that is amazing. Like it's really cool what he does. And we'll see that in a few minutes. Now this one is really funny. Space is real. How dare you question authority? Can you recognize that girl's face?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's wrong to do that to her, poor thing.
I mean, she didn't know that she was being used for propaganda. I
Yeah.
actually haven't watched the video in a while, and I went back and watched it when she was speaking at UN. How dare you? How dare you?
It's pretty good. She did pretty good.
It's sad how they use children like that for propaganda for their agendas. It really is. And now this one's funny. That moment you realize you're the cameraman being left on the moon to film the Apollo 17 lunar liftoff.
Yeah, that was some impressive skills. Like I've always tried to film things moving, and I have a hard time. It was the perfect pan. There was no delay. Allegedly, they're doing this from the ground. 250,000 miles away.
Especially the technology they had back then. They didn't have what we have.
No, dude, we were Skyping the moon half a century ago, like with no delay.
My bad.
And talking to them from a landline.
Yeah, from a rotary phone.
While Skyping them.
Yeah, while Skyping them. So why can't they live stream from the moon then? If they did all that then, I mean, what's up, guys?
Yeah,
y'all slacking. I know you like this one. This one's for you. Craters be like, I got hit by a rock from space, but it crawled out and left. How do they explain this?
Yeah, I know. I was doing some research. I thought there would have been like a bunch of these situations where they saw something fall down from the space and hit the ground, and they found it, and like it like never happens. Like they're like, oh look, there's a rock. Oh look, we found it, space rock. Like never happens. They claim there's like 2 times where it happened. I'm like, prove it.
Let's see the video footage, guys and gals.
That's a good one.
And this one's a classic too. We can't go through the Van Allen belt, but it was no problem in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, they hadn't been discovered yet. So you have to understand they were safer back before they were discovered. It makes sense if you don't think about it.
It makes sense if you don't use your brain. Yeah. We'll see that quote in a video later. Oh, man. Now, that's a good one, too. Things that make you go, Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11. The stars all around are even brighter than they are here. Michael Collins on the same mission. I don't remember seeing any stars. Why can't they get their stuff together? Get on the same page?
Well, they tried faking the stars like a couple years earlier, and that's why they had to stop their first time. It was actually the Air Force. You probably got that in here too somewhere. The Air Force faking stars from space was not good.
I actually don't have that video
Yeah.
in the mix,
Oh,
but
I've
I
got a
have a
picture
good
of
one.
it. I've got a picture of it in my presentation so people can see it because it will actually they'll like copyright you if you try to share it.
Copyright claim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know all about those. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So you want to read this scripture, brother?
Yeah.
Since I read the last one.
If you do not believe when I spoke to you about earthly matters, how are you going to believe when I speak to you about heavenly matters? And so remember Genesis when he talks about what they called heaven, the
The
firmament.
firmament. Now we're not trying to pull this verse out of context, but it is
Mhm.
interesting that he mentioned heavenly matters because back in Genesis 1:8, the firmament is given a name, heaven. But now we know he is talking about spiritual matters in the context. So just just so somebody doesn't try to call us out, oh, you're pulling it out of context. It's just something interesting to think about. That's all. So don't get bent out of shape. And the next verse, one of my favorites, especially in
I
the
love it.
context of this, John 3:13. And no one has gone up into the heaven except he who came down from the heaven, the son of Adam, or the Messiah Yeshua. So sorry, Buzz, Michael, and Neil. Y'all didn't do what you said you did. But you did do it on a Hollywood set on Earth, not in the heaven.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, oh, maybe you've seen this.
Yeah.
Justin Hager. I love watching the video of the
Yeah.
rat running around the SpaceX rocket while it's going into space. Have you seen that? Because I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one.
Yeah. And they started adding like something now conveniently every time they do it, they have something go around the little booster right there. You'll see something, they try to mimic it, but they could never replicate the original. The original was awesome. It looked like a field mouse of some sort just right around.
Ah, oh, man.
Joy is here. Hey, Joy.
Shalom, Joy. I think we're going to meet her in 3 days, right?
I hope so.
Awesome. Among lots of other people's. It's going to be a blast. So here's our first video. This is a very interesting video. So let's check it out.
Well, basically, it's just impossible. It cannot work in the vacuum of space. It's just impossible. Physically, it's impossible. Yeah.
So, what about all the scientists? Are they all lying, or?
The thing is that we have understood the word scientist wrong. Look, I'm a scientist. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I have a master's degree in technical physics. And I work as a research and development scientist. But when you say a scientist, you think that these guys are out there and they're just exploring the universe and trying to find the secrets of the universe. No, it's not like that. They pay us to do certain things, certain tasks. And if they don't pay me, I'm not gonna go search those stuff. Even if there are some people like me who do think about it, the thing is that since childhood they tell us that the rockets do work and the NASA is sending stuff up into the space, and so you're just programmed since childhood. You're not gonna be questioning that program. And even if you do question that program, people will laugh at you. People will judge you. They think you're stupid. So you end up losing your jobs and friends and stuff. So the scientists, they don't do that to themselves. It's a stupid thing to do. Even if it's the truth, but you just don't do it. The reason that you do think that rockets work in the vacuum of space is because of the third law of motion. The third law of motion states, it says that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So it's really easy to test that. Let's put this into action. An action is, for example, I'm going to start punching now. So I'm punching and I don't feel any reactions. Do you see reaction? I don't feel any reaction. But then I start punching the wall. I feel the reaction. I mean, you can try it. You feel the reaction. If it starts hurting, and if I punch harder, it's going to bleed, and if I punch even harder, it's going to break my bones. So it seems like the third law of motion, when in order for you to get the reaction, the equal and opposite reaction, you have to apply your action on something. If it's nothing, then you don't get the reaction. For example, if I'm now pushing I'm now pushing myself, okay, I'm pushing my hand, and no reaction, I don't feel any pushback. But then I push the wall, and I feel the pushback. So you cannot just push nothingness and expect something to happen. There has to be something.
But what about if I, for example, in a skateboard and I have a bowling ball, let's say, and I throw it, I go backwards. So
look, when you are standing on a skateboard and then you are pushing a 15-pound bowling ball, that 15-pound bowling ball has a static inertia. It means it wants to stay static, it doesn't want to move. So when you're pushing that, you're pushing yourself back. If you think that the third law of motion works in these kind of cases, then you can just throw a pen. Just see if you go backwards when you're throwing a pen. Throw a balloon, throw a light object. And yeah, cool. So you have a balloon and you can push the balloon and see if you go back. Or a ping pong ball. It doesn't happen. The same thing when you're pushing a car. You know, have you ever tried it when a car is broken and you're pushing it? At the beginning it doesn't move. It's heavy. And then after some time it just moves slower. It got out of that static inertia. It's now moving, so it's easier to push it. It's not that difficult. So in order to get this reaction, you have to push against something. Otherwise, it's not happening. This guy, the reason it goes up is these high velocity and hot gases that exit the exhaust of the rocket engine will push against the ground first, and then it takes off and it goes up. The air down here becomes thinner. But even if it's thinner, the speed of these gases will turn that thin air into a barrier. You know when you're, for example, driving in the highway and you stick your hand out of the window and you feel this pressure, and the faster you go, the more pressure you feel? That's the same thing. Even if your hand is small, when the speed is high, the pressure increases. It becomes a barrier. The same thing in here. It pushes these hot gases and high velocity gases down. Even if it's thin, it still creates a barrier out of them. So as long as there is air or thin air, the rockets do work, but when it goes out in the vacuum of space where there is nothing, then it's nothing. You can push it and nothing will happen. This is easy to test actually. Look, you can get a single drone and just put it on the ground, accelerate it, so it lifts up from the ground and hovers at 20 centimeters. Do not touch the accelerator anymore. Just put a cardboard sheet under the drone and just lift it up. When you lift it up, the drone starts coming up also, and it maintains the same 20 centimeter distance between the bottom of the drone and the sheet. And the moment you take the sheet out, you take it away, the drone just drops down, hits the ground, and the hitting the ground happens due to inertia. Hits the ground, comes up, and maintains the 20 centimeter distance. So based on these observations, based on what I just showed you, pushing, punching, and the drone, which I can show you actually, we can go outside and I can demonstrate this. It's impossible for the rockets to work in the vacuum of space. It just doesn't happen. The third law of motion happens when you apply your action on something and that something can react to you. When there is nothing, there is no reaction. Simple as that. Yeah. And the thing is, many people say that the rockets don't work in the space because there is no air. No, you're just misunderstanding it. They're carrying their own liquid fuel and they're carrying their own liquid oxygen, so they don't need air. That's not the problem. The problem is this pushing act that you have to push on something.
So you will say that they don't move. They cannot move up in the outer space.
When you're in a vacuum, no. This doesn't produce any thrust.
Even if it's like it's producing its own fuel, it wouldn't move.
It wouldn't move at all. Because as I said, you have to push against something in order to feel that reaction. And back here is a vacuum now. I mean, everywhere is a vacuum in the space. So there's nothing to push against, and done. It's just not happening. So yeah, we can actually go outside and try the drone thingy. So I'm not a good pilot, so I have to try to balance it first, but let's try our best. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, I'm not pushing the gas anymore, and we go up. You see, I'm not touching the gas. And then it comes down. We go up, as much as you want, and there we go. And the 20 centimeter is maintained, and then we go again. You see, it means something to push again. Otherwise, it drops. Yep, simple as that. Based on this, you can see rockets just cannot work in the vacuum of space. It's done. There is nothing you can say about this. It's over.
There it is.
I forgot to delete that last part. What do you think about that? That's pretty cool with that cardboard box and the drone. that kind of seals the deal right there.
Yeah. Just because you can repeat it in a lab doesn't mean it's science. Because you can test it and prove it. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know who that guy was. He seems familiar. He reminds me of like that guy. What's the channel? Decimal Z, Dr. Zach. I can't remember.
I don't know, but I downloaded that one on my laptop just in case.
Wow.
They don't like stuff like that.
Yeah, and I always used to think that in the early days of looking into this, how do you go to 17,500 miles per hour when the combustion speed is nowhere near that, even when you're not in a vacuum? And they just say they increase the burn time, and eventually it gets there. Over time, you just keep that throttle. And when you watch,
it's going so fast, Josh. That's why.
When you watch them change speeds too, and change their motion in space, it just looks like water squirts out. It's like a hairspray. It's like, and it's like, now we're going to get there. Now we're going 17,501 miles per hour with that little spurt. It's pretty cool how they do that.
So are you currently going 17,000 miles an hour where you're at?
Currently, yes, we are somewhere above the Earth. We don't keep our windows open. That would be too convenient to have any kind of windows open. We keep those closed, but yes, you have to trust me. We're there.
And you're traversing it every 90 minutes still?
Yeah, about every 90 minutes we go all the way around. Even though the one side of our International Space Station is always facing the Earth, we never have to account for curvature somehow. So the ISS never does that. It always kind of stays flat and level as we fly. I don't know the science behind that, but that's what happens. It never does this. I don't know why.
You don't know the science behind that, but you're up there anyways?
I'm up here, yeah.
You trust the science.
I trust the science, yes. I mean, we could easily put an object in the middle, kind of like the Foucault pendulum, and the ISS would rotate around it in 90 minutes. That would be cool, but that's never been done, and we're not interested in doing that. Okay. But we are doing all sorts of science up here.
Cool. So currently you're in the ISS, and I am actually floating in front of it. So that's our current locations.
Beep. Yeah.
All right, let's get us back on there. Let's get back to reality because we all know that's fake.
Yeah.
What? Huh, that's interesting. So are there really rockets in space after watching that video? Obviously not. So here's a question or something to think about. If what that scientist video we just watched said and showed is true, then the following was impossible and never happened. We have our second video of something fictional.
Camera's not going to run without me holding it. The average D, 20 seconds. Ah, shoot. Okay, let's get off. Forget the camera. Okay, 10 seconds. Port stage pushed. Engine arm is descent. Okay, I'm going to get the pro. 99, proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Regs are good. Ag thought. Pitch over. Roger, you have good thrust.
What were you saying, Josh? You were trying to say something.
Sorry, I thought we had our sound back. It must have been the delay from up here, but the the combustion. This is Taboo Conspiracy does a good video on this. The type of combustion they use for that makes this bright light. I mean, it's like this bright flame. And he pointed out that there was no flame. You could not see the flame coming out the bottom. And the debunkers are like, oh, we saw some video that proves that it's clear. And their only proof was some girl on a science channel saying it's clear combustion. And then you go to a lab with scientists using that exact same fuel, and it was as bright as ever. And even the scientists were like, wow, that was bright. And you can't see it. All you can see is like some of the tinfoil shooting off of this thing when they did that.
And speaking of that, somebody has a funny comment. Justin Hager said that piece of aluminum foil going to bring them home.
Yeah, the amount, there's a meme, it's a real good one. It said the amount of fuel needed to get you to the moon. And you know how big they make those Apollo rockets look? And then it's like, that's the equipment and fuel you need to get from the Earth to the moon. But then to go from the moon to the Earth, that's all you need is that. Like, that is mathematically how? Like, how? This makes no sense.
Yeah. So what we just saw with that Apollo 17 takeoff, the lunar lander takeoff, is what you see on the screen. Lies and deception at a high level. And expensive lies, too, may I add. I wonder what their budget is right now, how much they're fleecing the U.S. for. Is it 62 or 65 mil a day?
I don't even know. I just pay them without even thinking because I trust them. Don't even ask.
Of course you trust the science. You're on the ISS. Come on. So here's a quote that just, I mean, you can't say it better. This is from The Greatest Lie on Earth, page 241. Quote, the NASA space program is a government propaganda operation designed to convince the masses that the Earth is a globe spinning in the vacuum of space as it orbits the sun, end quote. I mean, we could end on that quote.
Yeah. It's just crazy who founded it. Like going back and looking at who and when and what all was going on in the world while they were beginning to protect Antarctica so that we can't go there privately. And this was coming into existence with former Nazi scientists. Were the first time that in history that I know of where you take war criminals and promote them to high-paying jobs, let them take over. You have a cultist, JPL founder doing ritualistic magic, literal ritualistic magic and spells and all that, especially down at Area 51, right before all the UFO era took place. Nothing demonic there.
Conveniently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting circumstances, to say the least.
Yes, it is.
My brother has done a lot more digging into that.
So I found this meme on accident. I think I was typing in like NASA memes, and this one I was like, whoa, this one stopped me in my tracks. I really had to sit here and marinate on it. So, quote, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, Satan. And here we have somebody, an astronaut, N-O-T, drinking a beer on the moon. Of course, it's a CGI photo, or CGI image, just like they give us. I thought that was very interesting. Let's read that verse real quick with a little context. We're not going to pull it out of context, but just something to think about. Isaiah 14, 12 through 14. How you have fallen from the heavens, O Hallel, or Lucifer, which is how it words it in the King James Version. Son of the morning, you have been cut down to the ground. You have who laid low the Gentiles. For you have said in your heart, let me go up to the heavens. Let me raise my throne above the stars of El. And let me sit in the mount of meeting on the sides of the north. Let me go up above the heights of the clouds. Let me be like the Most High. So that last sentence, NASA kind of sounds like that's what they're doing a little bit.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's always like the Tower of Babel 2.0, sending up, in the early days, sending up the missiles that were named after those false gods, Thor, which is another name for Baal, straight up as high as we could, blowing it up, thinking they could injure or hurt the firmament. I don't know what they were thinking, but as soon as they did that, that's when all the weird stuff started happening, and they shut everything down, started faking space, and it was interesting times, them trying to do the things they do. And I'm sure the father's like, wow, he knew this was going to happen. He accounted for it. When he made the firmament and spent an entire day making it, he knew what was going to happen.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, he's not going to make this little thin eggshell thing that they can just blast through.
Yeah,
he can open it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I would say West Blaze has a great comment about the actual context of Isaiah 14, and it's about Nimrod, the king of Babylon, which he is correct.
Yep.
Man, brother. Virtual nuts. So what does NASA mean exactly? Not a space agency, never a straight answer, National Academy of Space Actors, or no astronauts should apply. Does anybody in the chat have any that they can think of that's not on here?
Yeah, the meaning of the word in Hebrew.
Well, there is that.
There is that. Yeah, and it's interesting talking to people because I've known two people that have worked at NASA, and they are decent people. And one of them now is a flat earther. Ironically, it's kind of funny that he went from one extreme to the other. But he said, while he was there, he had no clue that he was doing anything wrong, that he was contributing in any lies. It wasn't until the father opened his eyes and he started asking questions that he found out. He's like, man, it's all a lie. And the information that he mapped out in Antarctica was never added to our data. It's weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that they think they're doing good for humanity when they go to work, that work for NASA. They're not bad people. They just don't know. That's all there is to it. And that's part of the thing. People are like, well, how come you don't have millions of people in on the lie? They just don't know. It's compartmentalization. It's like the military. The people up top know stuff that the people on the bottom of the pyramid do not know. That's how the structure works. NASA is no different, or any other organization or business. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, I don't know if I should put that one on there, Wes. All right, I will. Nasty blank satanic agency. All right. Thanks for the contribution, Wes. Oh, man, that's funny. You want to read this one, brother?
Yeah. It says here, in 2013, it was revealed that an astronaut nearly drowned while he was supposedly in space. I kid you not. How is it possible to drown in the vacuum of space? NASA has since retrofitted spacesuits with snorkels. They need to do that. Spacewalks. And after a spacewalking astronaut nearly drowned in his helmet in July, NASA has a plan to protect its crew when they venture into the vacuum of space this weekend. Snorkels and absorbent towels. Some smart engineers on the ground said, hey, this looks like a snorkel you'd use for scuba diving, explained Allison Bollinger, NASA's lead U.S. space. How do you put one in your mouth? Because I like free diving, scuba diving, snorkeling. It's like, okay, let me reach through my helmet, grab the snorkel, and put it in my mouth.
Do you have one up there on the ISS? Do you have a snorkel?
The snorkels, we keep them in the suits. That way they that way they don't have to worry about accessing them if they need it, because they can't. You cannot reach through your glass dome head to put a snorkel in your mouth.
Oh man! So with that in mind, we had to go here with the space bubbles, since we're talking about snorkels and towels.
Bubbles in space.
Yes, we love bubbles in space. I remember. I'm sure you've seen this before. There was I think it was Scott Kelly on stage in the auditorium at Entertainment had something about. Do you remember seeing bubbles in space? And of course, he kept denying it.
Yeah, maybe it's flakes of paint. Yeah, and and the one time this happened, there was this guy outside the space station allegedly, and it just bubbles are going out like tons of. It looked like water, like coming out, like just bubbles and just shooting out like really fast. And they're like, "Do you see anything around you?" And the astronaut's like, "No, I think I'm good." And they're like, "Okay, well, there's something. It looks like there's air leaking or something." They didn't know what it was. They were so confused, but they just kept doing the spacewalk. And my thought is, if you're in an enclosed environment where water's valuable, and that's water or air leaking out, but you wouldn't be able to see air if it was a vacuum. So, in the people's mind on the ground who don't know this is all fake, probably they're like, okay, this has to be water. And but it was just air bubbles just shooting out. One of their hoses sprung a leak or something, and nobody seemed to really care. And I'm like, this could be life or death, like literally life or death if you have that much water leaking out if it's water. But it was bubbles when they're actually in a really crystal clear water environment. And so
Yeah, we will see that in a minute. I'm just curious. Are there any space bubbles where you're at on the ISS?
No, it's a really tough environment. It's a hardened environment with.
I don't see any floating around. I was just curious after the last footage we saw.
Yeah, just floating cups.
Oh, there we go.
It's gone.
Oh man, that's tough. Yep, here we got another acronym. Non-accountable stealing agency. Oh man, I should make a shirt out of all those.
Yeah.
I would probably get some comments going to the gas station in that shirt. So here's a question: how is it possible to have bubbles in space?
Mm-hmm. And changing their direction mid-flight.
Yeah, mid-flight. So here's how. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's just weird. You see them and they'll float and they'll kind of go like in circles, and you have to think in a vacuum, because I've seen bubbles do that when I'm down at the bottom of the pool, making bubbles come up. But like in a vacuum, everything would move in one direction. Like the guy said, there's nothing for it to push off of. Whatever direction it's going to keep going in that direction unless there's a force outside it, like wind or water. It's the only way.
So here is the answer to the question: how do we have bubbles in space, right?
Exclusive night, we got to see a one-of-a-kind training facility run by NASA.
It's a giant pool where not just astronauts train, but also oil and gas workers, pilots, and first responders.
Larry Seward joins us live at Ellington Airport with this exclusive story. Larry?
Lynn, NASA calls it their neutral buoyancy lab. It's just behind Ellington Field here and is becoming an important source of new revenue. NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab simulates space underwater. In a pool 4 stories deep and so wide, we saw astronauts float and train on one full-size International Space Station replica. One full-size International Space Station replica. One full-size International Space Station replica. And now,
we're open for business.
It's up for rent.
Your business.
Even promoted on NASA's YouTube channel.
Certainly the economics of it make a lot of sense.
Todd Probert's company, Raytheon, runs and maintains NASA's lab here with 120 people 24/7.
For those of you that have a backyard pool, that's considerable maintenance in its own right. To maintain this pool, we've got to go worry about all those considerations as well on a bigger scale.
So it's not cheap, and with no shuttle program and fewer astronauts sent into space, NASA let oil and gas companies dive in a few years ago. Instead of spending $100,000 on emergency underwater training in the Gulf, some paid $25 grand to do it here, where engineers design and build anything needed. Some groups even bring underwater vehicles. Money made helps NASA keep things afloat.
Spreading it out over as many users as you possibly can makes a lot of sense from an economic standpoint. So there's just practical, there's a practical application of what NASA's trying to do here.
Astronauts from around the world still use this pool, prepping for missions 3 to 4 times a week, 6 hours a day. But NASA insists there's room for much more. They're open to survival courses and underwater training as long as the price is right, but all of this and all of those customers are helping keep NASA's lab open. We are live at Ellington Field. Larry Seward, KHRU 11 News.
All right. Thanks so much, Larry. Pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm just wondering how much money do they need to make?
Yeah, wow. I mean, imagine that's where our tax dollars are going. A big giant swimming pool with a mock-up for training, because you wouldn't want them to drown in space like they almost have.
That's why they have snorkels, Josh. Come on, catch up. Will you sleep on that section? And the or the towels, the special towels they needed.
Yeah, I wonder what photo shoot that was. Buzz was at when he did that for the camera. I mean, like all the people that do that, like the celebrities, but like I've never seen a camera guy. I've gone, you take photos. They're never like, all right, do that around your eye and like cheese.
Yeah.
like make sure it's your right eye. It's always the right eye,
And like he's going out of his way to say, hello, fellow Masons.
And he's got like those voodoo bracelets on. They're like skulls, and he wears them all the time. Like, wow, there's something to that. Poor guy. Pray for him, man. That is just a sad way to live out his last days, gaining the world.
And then this is a clip from a really old paper. I'll read it real fast. So, Aldrin with Luther A. Smith, the Sovereign Grand Commander, and the Masonic flag he took with him to the moon. The New Age magazine.
Wow. That's awesome. They took it with them. It was special.
Can you see that flag from where you're at?
Yeah, that's proof they're there. It's right next to the reflectors that we've seen.
Yeah.
Well, our computers have seen them. We've never seen them. They've detected them from Earth. But they're there. Yeah.
Trust the science, Josh. You know how this works.
You saw it. Yeah. I've been having conversations with this person who their grandfather was one of the Apollo astronauts, and
wow,
he's like wanting to set up a video call where he can show me all these things that he has, because he has all these cool things. He's got a Bible that's like the Apollo version with the Earth. It's like all of this stuff they have. It's like signed, and he grew up in that world. And I would really like to have him on, but man, in his family, if something like that were to get out that he's talking about that not being legit, that's going against your family history, the pride. There's a lot of pride behind that, like being the child or the grandchild of an Apollo astronaut. Like that was one of the biggest deals in the world.
It's a big
at
deal.
That time. Yeah. So he's a brave young man though. He's offered to have me look at this stuff. I need to reach back out to him and see.
Yeah, you need to Skype or Zoom that guy.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff he showed me already. He sent me a bunch of pictures.
Now this one is fun. This video is really fun right here.
Play this.
Orion is getting ready to launch. My name is Kelly Smith, and I work on navigation and guidance for Orion. Before we can send astronauts into space on Orion, we have to test all of its systems. And there's only one way to know if we got it right: fly it in space. For Orion's first flight, no astronauts will be aboard. The spacecraft is loaded with sensors to record and measure all aspects of the flight in every detail. As the spacecraft and the upper stage begin their first lap around Earth, Mission Control in Houston is monitoring the progress of the flight. Orion's over 100 miles up and going about 17,000 miles per hour. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication. This is expected. The communications link we have through satellites to Orion is momentarily lost, but Orion continues to receive and process data. Its computers can handle 480 million instructions per second. We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Here's Apollo 12 astronaut Alan Bean being interviewed about the Van Allen radiation belts.
Any ill effects from the Van Allen radiation belts?
No, now I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did. I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
Then we went right out through them.
No effects on your cells?
Didn't even know it. I don't think anybody, well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside, and we didn't get any, added radiation. Not on our mission, by the way. They hadn't been discovered yet.
So you see, he wasn't even sure what the Van Allen belts were, and when he was told, he basically says that the radiation belts didn't apply to his mission because they hadn't been discovered yet.
Okay. Okay.
Well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside. Not on our mission, by the way. They hadn't been discovered yet.
The guy just said, maybe somebody said we just went through the Van Allen radiation belts, but how is that possible if they hadn't been discovered yet?
Well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside. Not on our mission, by the way. They hadn't been discovered yet.
We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Not on our mission, by the way. They hadn't been discovered yet.
There's your boy Alan, Josh.
Yep. The man, that was just so funny. I feel bad. It'd be hard to carry on that live for so long. Like,
I
and have people asking you.
I don't know how they sleep at night.
Yeah, I guess that's why Neil never came back out into the spotlight and kind of hid.
And then when he did come out, like with was it 25th or 50th, whatever anniversary, he was speaking very cryptically, trying to tell people something if they had ears to hear.
Truth protective layers.
Yep. And it was interesting that guy. It was interesting that guy in that video said they lost communication. But how's that possible? They had perfect communication in 1969 with a landline phone. Explain that one.
Yeah. Yeah. The landline, the Moon Reacher 2000. There should be infomercials about that phone.
The Moon Reacher 2000.
But wait, there's more.
Oh man, that's funny. The Moon Reacher 2000. I should name a video after that.
Yeah. I saw a meme. The guy had that. It was like the infomercial guy holding the actual like landline phone. Like, and it's funny, like they said, guys, like they told the astronauts to like get in front of the camera so he could see, the president could see them. And like you see them start jumping inward. Like, how did they know what those cameras were filming and where the cutoff was unless there's a director back there going, okay, go that way, I gotta go that way. Like you couldn't see, they didn't have like the screen on the back of the camera so they could see what they're filming. They're just like, here we go. All right, I'm in the shot now.
Here's Justin said, yeah, the red phone landline to the moon. Duh. Would you call it the Moon Reacher 2000?
Yeah.
Oh man,
they destroyed that technology though. They had to. It's a painful process to build it back.
Painful process.
Yeah. When I was looking at the Van Allen belts in the early days of my research, I was seeing things like, how did they discover them? You know, like somebody had to go, okay, there's something here. There's this dangerous, deadly barrier. And it says, I think it was a balloon that they sent up with a Geiger counter. And I'm like, how? This thing's like 400 miles away. How did detect it with a balloon that only goes like 30,000 feet, you know, like 100,000 feet, somewhere in there, like maxing out at 130,000 feet. And they detected these things with a balloon. Kind of fishy.
Right, guys.
And then that guy that detected it was like, we can't send anybody back until we create ways to get there. It's just such a convenient set of lies, and you just have to keep lying, adding to it. I mean, they're finally starting to send people to space now, like these celebrities and stuff, these, you know, wealthy people, allegedly. And now it's like, well, it's time to start thinking about retiring the ISS, guys. Can't be sending regular people there anymore. It's lived out its days.
Is that true, or are you making that up?
No, I really think they're starting to retire it. I think they said like by 2030, or I could be wrong. I saw an article. I didn't fact check it, but definitely gonna happen soon. Or the Russian threat will pan out, like von Braun told us it would. That Russian threat that he warned us about before he died, that would be one of the final cards before the alien deception. So yeah, got the whole Russian threat playing out as we speak. They've even destroyed a satellite, and they said there was an ABC article that was out, and they were threatening to leave our astronauts on space. And you have Elon Musk, who is going to be this Tony Stark character, you know, firing back like, I challenge Putin to a fight. Oh my gosh. Yeah, save the day kind of guy. Don't worry, we've got SpaceX. They'll do it.
We're about to get into SpaceX right now, so that's funny you mentioned that.
And Elon just happens to be the name of the guy, or the name of the title of the person that's going to be leading the colony on Mars, according to von Braun's book that he wrote back in, like, golly, I forget when it was, the 50s.
So, you sure that wasn't somebody else? I don't think it was von Braun that wrote that book. I think it was a science fiction author. It was von Braun?
It was von Braun, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He wrote a book. Let me see if I can pull it up. I had it somewhere.
Yeah, I was familiar. I thought it was. I forget that guy's name. But he's definitely in that book that you're talking about. Is he the main character or one of the characters?
It's the title. The title of the person leading the civilization on Mars would be given. They said they'd be given the title Elon. If they were the leader, that would be their name, their title. Don't know why Elon in specific, but like 6 years after, or no, I think like 6 or 7 years before he died, Elon was born. Yeah, I think it was him.
This is an interesting comment by Justin Faith off of what you said a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then there's no proving or disproving the ISS. Then humans will always believe the heliocentric model forever.
Yeah. It will crash land in Point Nemo, where all the other rockets go. The furthest spot from land.
The rocket and shuttle graveyard under the sea.
It's a spaceship graveyard.
Yep. Exactly. So let's get into SpaceX for a few minutes, shall we?
The Roadster.
Good old Roadster.
What was going through your mind? How amazed were you to see your Roadster up there with Starman just cruising along with the Blue Planet? And how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. Fake. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake. And you know, the colors all look kind of weird in space. There's no atmospheric occlusion. You know, like everything looks too crisp. But we didn't really test any of those materials for, you know, is it space hardened or whatever, you know. So it just has the same seats that like a normal car has. It's just literally a normal car in space, which I kind of like the absurdity of that. And if you look closely, on the dashboard, there's a tiny Roadster with a tiny spaceman. So, because Hot Wheels made a Hot Wheels Roadster, and a friend of mine suggested, hey, why don't you put that Hot Wheels Roadster with a tiny spaceman on the, in the car too? I'm like, that'd be cool. Sure. So we
So if you really sit there and think about some of the stuff he said with a logical mind and critical thinking, he said some absolutely ridiculous stuff. So if that car was open, like it shows in the video, and there's a little spaceman in a vacuum, really? Like the vacuum didn't suck that thing millions of miles away?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just a regular car. The temperatures in space they tell us about, the extreme ones, had no effect whatsoever on those leather seats. So we could literally bring our cars to space.
It's a near perfect vacuum, but nothing happened to the little space dude on the dash of the Roadster.
Oh, wait, that's true. I never thought of that. You had someone in an enclosed spacesuit being filmed going from Earth pressure. Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. He would have puffed up. Like even the tires, I think surely they drained the air out of these things or had a valve to where the air could leak out because those would have exploded.
Yep.
The spaceman would have exploded. If that was a legit spacesuit that was airtight. Huh. That's interesting. I'd never thought about that. Dang. Good new point to fathom.
I'm here for you. So yes, Elon, it was CGI. Now this one's fun. I borrowed this one from the DITRH video and just clipped it a little bit. And this is more recent. And this will be the last video of mine for the show.
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon. Go Dragon. Godspeed. Axiom 1.
Together, a new chapter begins. Godspeed, AX1.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 38 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Telemetry nominal. Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in the preparation for max dynamic pressure.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. X2. Stage 1 throttle up.
Berlin 1D engines coming back up to power.
Copy 1 Bravo.
The crew calling out 1 Bravo should a escape situation arise and tells the Dragon flight computer what profile to fly using the Super Draco engines. But everything is looking good on Falcon 9. We're getting nominal callouts from all the engineers and a great view from the ground camera and the onboard cameras.
Impact chill underway.
Beginning to chill in the second stage turbo pump in preparation for its ignition coming up in just over half a minute from now. Coming up on about 3.5 G's acceleration for the crew. We'll begin throttling down the Merlin engines to hold that level of acceleration. Next event coming up, we're going to get main engine cut off of the line engines. Get stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. You've heard the throttle down call out. We're holding 3.5 G's for the crew.
And Miko.
Successful stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. On the left, the titanium grid fins beginning to slowly deploy. Great views from the first stage camera. The first stage now begins a slow flip maneuver. You can see the white nitrogen gas plumes as we reorient for an entry back through the Earth's atmosphere a little bit later in the plus count. Second stage, we see the engine nozzle glowing red. Everything continuing to look good on the second stage. Should be hearing call-outs coming up to the crew here shortly on how the trajectory is looking.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
That's what we like to hear.
Signal Bermuda.
AOS Bermuda acquisition signal. The Bermuda tracking station now getting telemetry from the second stage of the Falcon 9 with the Dragon on top. T plus 4 minutes 10 seconds. Everything continues to be nominal. First stage coasting to apogee, and then it'll come back down for landing on the drone ship. Second stage partway through its lengthy burn to get the crew into orbit. So Kate, 4.5 minutes in, everything continues to look good.
What a absolutely picture perfect liftoff. Got a live view of the crew inside Dragon Endeavour. Looks like everyone is still pretty comfy. As John had said earlier, we got
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
All right, good call out there. That trajectory is nominal. As John mentioned, we got to about 3.5 G's there.
Position signal New Hampshire.
On the left-hand side of your screen, we can see the first stage as it is making its way back down to Earth. It's targeting a landing on our drone ship, a short call of Gravitas, which is parked a couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida, out in the Atlantic Ocean. Second stage on the right-hand side, everything continues to be nominal there. as the MVAC engine is powering the second stage and Dragon Endeavour to its targeted drop-off orbit. Absolutely beautiful views of both the first and second stages.
Trajectory nominal.
All right, so coming up in about a minute and a half, the first stage will execute the first of 2 burns required for today's landing attempt. At about T plus 7 minutes and 30 seconds, we'll see the entry burn begin. That's where the first stage will ignite the center engine first, and then a couple seconds later ignite 2 more engines, so a total of 3 engine burn, which will last about 29 seconds. The entry burn slows the vehicle down significantly as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. The first stage sees high drag, which scrubs roughly 70% of that velocity by the time that the landing burn begins. Stunning view where you can see the curvature of the Earth there on the left-hand side.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Stunning view where you can see the curvature of the Earth there on the left-hand side.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
There you can see the nitrogen gas thrusters. That's the puff of gas that you see there occasionally. That's used for attitude control systems. We also utilize those grid fins that you see. There are 4 of them placed around the booster, and those grid fins also help steer for a precise landing. Either at the...
Entry burn startup. Stage 2.
All right, there we can see that entry burn has begun. We are targeting a landing on our drone ship, a short called Gravitas, today. Everything continuing to look nominal with trajectory and MVAC performance there for our second stage on the right-hand side. So we are conducting the entry burn. Previously, the booster was...
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
That entry burn helps slow the booster down. It was going about 25 times the speed of sound. So we slow it down as it re-enters the dense part of the Earth's atmosphere. The next event is second engine cutoff, or SECO 1, as you see it there on the timeline at the bottom of your screen.
Stage 2 thermal guidance.
That's where we shut down the MVAC engine, or second engine cutoff.
Copy, Shannon. Stage 1 transonic.
Note that our landing burn and second engine cutoff will occur about the same time.
Shut down.
All right, you got a live view of the crew inside Dragon Endeavour there on the right-hand side of your screen.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn has begun for the first stage.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
All right, great news there. Dragon Endeavour, nominal orbit insertion.
SpaceX Endeavour, copy, and it's connected here. 0G at 805. Stage 1 landing light deployed. SpaceX Dragon launch skip system disarmed.
As you can see, this Falcon 9 has landed for the 5th time. All the while, great commentary there.
Stage 1 landing light deployed. SpaceX Dragon launch skip system disarmed.
As you can see, this Falcon 9 has landed for the 5th time. All the while, great commentary there.
Stage 1 landing light deployed. SpaceX Dragon launch skip system disarmed.
As you can see, this Falcon 9 has landed for the 5th time. All the while, great commentary there. Well, we can confirm the landing. Confirm landing there of the first stage booster. Also, almost simultaneously, great news for the second stage. We heard that there was nominal orbit insertion for Crew Dragon Endeavour. There you can see a live view inside our Dragon. Looks like the crew is beginning to adjust to 0G. And if you look at the right-hand side corner, it looks like we can see the 0G indicator.
That was one of the things I really wanted to see, what they were going to bring for their 0G indicators. So I can't wait to see what comes on.
It looks, I can't quite tell, Pokemon? Maybe, okay, well, hopefully it'll come into closer view.
Yeah, if not, we'll get to ask them later, hopefully.
Yeah, great to see the crew here again, starting to, really getting their first taste of microgravity.
Yeah.
Oh, it has ears? Oh, it's a bunny. Is that Thumper?
I think it might be.
I think that's Thumper from Bambi. Love it. So right now, the second stage is basically preparing for Dragon separation. We are, the next step now that, as we have said, Dragon has nominal orbital insertion, the second stage and Dragon will separate. Views there of our MVAC engine, now shut off, no longer glowing that lovely shade of orange. Right now, the second stage is about 200 kilometers above Earth. Preparing now for stage separation. Excuse me, for Dragon separation. For those of you that have just recently joined us, we had an on-time liftoff of the Axiom 1 crew. They are now in space and coming up to separation from second stage, at which point they will then begin to make their journey, continue their journey to the International Space Station. The view that you're currently looking at is inside the Dragon trunk, which, as you can see, has just separated from the second stage.
Behalf of the Falcon 9 team, welcome to space. Thanks for flying Falcon 9. You guys enjoy your trip to that wonderful space station in the sky. Do some great research for us. We'll look to see you back here on the ground.
Now stand by for some more LD.
And MLA and our crew Endeavor. Glad we got to have some fun this morning. We'll probably be calling it early weekend over here at Cape. Pass you over to Ann and the team. They'll be in good hands. Godspeed, Endeavor. Enjoy the rest of your flight. Cheers.
Hey, Mark, it was a lot of fun. I mentioned to guess we had a little bit more than you did. We thank you, your launch team, first, you and the Falcon 9 team. It was a hell of a ride, and we're looking forward to the next 10 days.
All right, some nice words there from a couple of key folks.
So you have been witnessing, as we have, history in the making here with the successful launch of Axiom 1's the mission to get to the International Space Station. This would be the first mission that is fully private, and that is the big deal here.
Somebody had a good comment when that video was playing. True realm research. I didn't know there was wind in the vacuum of space. I mean, once your eyes are open, like, it's so easy to see how fake this stuff is. So when I was sitting there watching this video and other videos that I played during my research, I'm just like, man, how could I not see that before? This is so fake.
Yeah.
But I do have a question for you. So this, what we have on the screen, is has it made it up there to the ISS yet? Have you seen that? Has it docked?
Yeah, it's one of those things you've never seen footage of them going uncut for more than a couple minutes. I mean, like, you don't get uncut footage of these things. It's always camera, change camera, change camera. But uncut from there to the docking of the ISS would be awesome. And that footage doesn't exist. We don't have more than a couple minutes. And I've been in debates with Globe Earthers where I've said, prove that, just show me this footage that's uncut for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of uncut footage will be nice. I mean, airplanes can fly longer than that. Let's just see something. And They don't have it. They can't find it. That uncut footage does not exist because they can't go where they say they're going. And that is just the bottom line of that. But that horizon looks nice.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's not a curvature. It's almost flat, maybe a little convex. But wake up, folks. All the stuff that we showed and more is fake. The only thing that has been to space is people's imagination. The creation of the heliocentric globe was to keep people's minds enslaved and believe in something that is not real. It's time to free your mind, folks. So that is the end of my presentation. So let's, if you're ready, brother, we'll pull yours up. Are you on the right slide? Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead. You can pull it up.
All right, let's see what we got.
There we go. So I wanted to start out with a little challenge. This is for people that are skeptics that what they do up there is fraudulent because it looks so real. Unlike what Elon said, it looks so fake. You know it's real. It does look real. And I mean, I grew up loving this stuff. They did a better job back in our early days, back in the 80s and 90s when I was watching the STS missions. But they started trying to use virtual augmented reality, and that's where they started messing up. And so I put out a challenge a long time ago on another social media platform to replicate what you see here. This is Don Pettit drinking out of a bag, and he says that the angles, that he made this bag of coffee, it keeps it from spilling because of the acute angles or something. And so he's showing this video off, but at the end of it, his coffee teleports outside of the bag that he's drinking out of. So you have teleportation or something, just this plastic solid bag, and the liquid turns into a brown square and teleports outside of this material. And a lot of people say it's video lag. You don't know how that stuff works. And so this is where the challenge comes in. I want people to take a situation where there's video lag and show where a person or any object, due to video lag, teleports outside of an object. It can be solid, liquid, doesn't matter, but video lag happens, and there has to be teleportation where the object is completely out while the object they were inside of is still there, just like you see with the coffee cup here. The coffee cup is still there, and now it's clear. The only thing that left was the other layer. They use multi-layered, multi-billion-dollar technology, greater budget than Hollywood. So it looks real. And when you look at the metaverse stuff they're doing now with the VR, they're bringing people directly to the International Space Station. They say they're bringing you in, and the stuff looks real. People are going to go on these little virtual trips, think it's real, and fully buy in. I could remember the first time I put on a little VR headset a long time ago at one of those work conventions, and it puts you in outer space, and you're floating and looking at the planets and just going, wow, look, there's Earth. It makes it more real. And so seeing the stuff on TV has done a good job brainwashing us, but our children are in a generation where they're going to be seeing this stuff in a virtual reality type of setting. And so that's a quick little challenge for those of you. You can show that to your friends, just that little segment. See if you can prove that this is real. And that's just one of many of their virtual augmented reality fails. There's tons of them. We've got a playlist for Fake Space that you guys can check out. That it keeps growing, even though they're deleting them. This stuff keeps growing and growing. And so even recently, I had Matt over. He was at our house the other day, and I was showing him some of the SDS footage that I found some more fraud. And you look at this space shuttle. This thing was like an airplane that would come down, and you'd watch it land, and it had the little parachute that would puff out. And as a kid watching this thing blast off, it was just this adrenaline rush. You're like, this is so massive. Look at this thing going up into the sky. And it was fun to watch. I mean, it was one of those things that, your dad's playing with you as a kid. They're like 3, 2, 1, blast off. And they're doing the rocket. And you loved that stuff. I mean, it was fun. I even had a little model STS rocket as a kid that I can remember playing with. But the windows, if you look at them, have a sill on the outside because they're going to a vacuum. And so they have that little sill, that protective sill around the outside. And so you can see they have the same thing on the inside, and they're filming the ISS. And I took little screenshots here instead of playing the video for the sake of time. But you can see that layer on the outside window in the ISS passing through a solid barrier, just like with the virtual augmented reality. It's passing through it. And then seconds later, you can see it kind of makes its way back to the position it should be in. They're allegedly looking at it from their shuttle, and it somehow teleports through the solid barrier. Shouldn't be able to do that because you're seeing the interior sill protecting them from the vacuum and the exterior sill, and they're seeing it in front of that, almost like it's trapped in between the window sills there, like one of those double pane glass windows. So interesting. That's a new one. I haven't made a video about that. I thought, it's almost there's just so many of them. It's like if I sat there and made videos about this stuff, I can make videos every day for the rest of my life because there's so much fraud involved, and it's easy to get lost in it because you just keep seeing it, and other people just cannot, for whatever reason, they just can't see it. They're like, they won't even look at it. They don't think that there's fraud whatsoever. And you had mentioned, Matt, talking about the ISS and how that works, because obviously they've got some trick they've done recently where people could look up and spot the ISS, allegedly, this thing where there's astronauts on there running around, flipping around, doing science. And you can
17,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. And you can spot it from 200 miles away, and it's as big as a football field, but they can't film a football game from the International Space Station with all of their zoom cameras, but we can spot them from here. That would be nice if they could get an actual zoom in on a football field, because we can zoom in on them from here, and they've never done anything like that. But they do have continuous flight technology. They've shown it off in the past, and they named it Helios. You can see the picture here. That's one of their false god names that the word tells us not to mention, and they use those false god names for all of their missions. Like literally all of them are named after their sun gods, Apollo and Artemis and Helios. It's always going to be like that. Get your little Osiris or Nimrod, whoever that deity is. Their deities all have multiple names, so they can kind of stay hidden a little better.
So is that where heliocentric model comes from?
Yep. And solar system is from Sol Invictus, the sun god of Rome. So our entire model of creation is named after that. And another little challenge that people can do, this one's a scientific one. This one has to do with proving that there is curvature and that it's not the fisheye lens effect, because we saw the footage you just showed. We saw the curved horizon, and it was like the news person was like, and look at the curvature of the Earth over here. And then it goes flat and concave, and they're just silent. They don't mention it again. They only mention it when it looks like what they think it's supposed to look like. And this is where I thought of something that should be very simple. Most people have access to a fisheye lens, a GoPro camera. There's millions of people that have them. Yeah, you've got one. And so you can take a flat line, an existing flat line, and a GoPro and move the GoPro up and down. That flat line will bend. It will bend both directions. It'll turn into a smiley face and a frowny face. It'll keep changing, and it will go both directions perfectly. You can do that with a flat horizon, which is replicated in the space footage we just saw, alleged space footage. Then you can take a curved line, and I've done this myself, okay, because you've seen tons of times. Here's some examples of what I'm talking about.
Can you go back to that last slide real quick so I can share something about my GoPro before we get into this slide?
Is that one?
So I think I shared this shared a clip when I had Ben on Taboo Conspiracy when we did the searching for the curve. At this point, it's number 12. I forget what episode that was. You can go back and check it out. It's in the playlist. But I was camping doing the Feast of Tabernacles, and me and one of the family's sons, we're on our kayaks and we're just having a good time. And normally I like to put a hat on, put it on backwards, and have my GoPro, and I just click play and I'll just kayak and just have a good time. And at the time, I didn't know what was happening, and I went back and looked at the footage later, and I was like, "Whoa!" And I saw it go convex in the water, and then I got on this little island, and I was just panning, like getting a video, and it was flat, just like the horizon normally. And I get to almost the end of the island, and then it did this right here. Woo! Really huge curvature. So that's a great example of you can see all three with a fisheye lens camera, like a GoPro. So there's that.
Yeah, from any elevation too, from ground level, standing at whatever height you are with a camera, you can produce that exact same effect on the ground. And they do that when they show their footage that we see when they put their highlight films together. This is the type of footage that wrong way, sorry. This is the type of footage that you see, and we've seen it when they did. This is is this the Virgin Galactic footage here, and they show it, and it makes the newspapers, everywhere. Every time you see it, they show that there's the Earth curve. They've sent, someone who's not working for NASA did this, and they can't all be in on the conspiracy. But this isn't even a fisheye lens. This is their window. It's a round window, just like the window in your plane when you're going up in an airplane is slightly curved. It's the exact same effect. And this was footage taken from the I think this was a SpaceX capsule as it was going back to the ground, and you can see the horizon concave, convex, doing this throughout as it's tumbling back, allegedly falling back to Earth. There it is from 73 miles. And in this footage here, this was not a space agency. That's the world record go fast that went extremely fast in a straight line and ran into gravity. If you've seen that footage, there's from the International Space Station with their fisheye lens overcorrected.
AKA the pool.
Yeah. And so I'm going to show you some examples before I get to the challenge that you can do with your own lens. Here's some continent that's literally we've never heard of because it's as big as the Earth and we've never seen it. I think that's probably Florida. Who knows? More concavity. This is some things I put together. But here's the challenge. I did this with the line you're seeing here was already curved. Okay, so I'm looking at it with a GoPro, and I'm trying to make it flatten, and I can flatten the line in the center. The center of the line I can make flat with an existing curve using a fisheye lens. The outer edges will not do what we see with space footage, where the outer edges bend both directions. They won't do that. Only in the middle can you start to flatten the curve, never on the outer edges. And that is repeatable. That's something you can do with any fisheye or almost any fisheye lens camera, and a flat line and a curved line. Experiment with both and then compare that footage to space footage, and you'll see that's the easiest flat earth proof, and it's using their actual footage against them. That's what I like about it, is that anybody can do it that has the access to a GoPro or a fisheye wide angle lens. So super easy to do. And we've seen the Planetary Society. This is a good one.
Planet Africa.
Planet Africa. And so you look, I circled on the NASA's blue marble, the size of what you're seeing there. Like if that was Earth, I mean, that's literally this is what they send up. They send up a piece of foil based on, what was the guy's name? The pale blue dot guy, not Neil deGrasse Tyson, Carl Sagan. That was one of his things. He said it's called light cell, and you can see their footage of Earth, and that is enhanced footage. And there's the globe from space. This thing went really high up. This is from the Planetary Society with Bill Nye. That's how awesome the fisheye lens is. There it is. There's a daylight map of Earth. That's how big the globe would be, right there. That little red circle in the middle of the daylight map of Earth. So,
wow,
the beloved fisheye. And here's one that I found from a meme. That's what got me. It's always the memes that kind of help wake you up.
Yep.
Somebody
that's why I put a meme page on the Truth About Cosmology site.
Yeah, someone said on this cartoon world, it is dark in Tokyo, Moscow, London, New York, Los Angeles, Honolulu, and Sydney simultaneously, which is impossible on a real daylight map of Earth to have all those places in darkness at the exact same time with only the same. It's always that same little area. Maybe the firmament's higher right here, and they can use their fisheye lens to almost get an entire continent. So they use that one spot. I don't know. I'm sure it's all pieced together, but that artwork exposed for what it is. It's just artwork. I mean, it's phenomenal. Back in the day, they looked actually more realistic than they do now because people worked harder and they were using real photos, piecing them together, and art, and who knows what else kind of technology they had way back then. And here's another one. I like this one. This is how big the moon was. It's probably why we never went back. There's not enough room to really go there for that many people. If you compare the curvature, this is one I like. But it gets worse. It gets a lot worse. Let me see. Yep. Oh, there's the squares.
Oh, he's getting in the Photoshop.
Getting into the photos. This was allegedly Earth on the way to the moon, and they were filming out the window. And most of you have seen that footage where they're filming this, and then all of a sudden the lights come on the inside, and you can see that it's just a circular window, and they have a cardboard insert at the bottom, making it look like a Terminator line. So they're doing this. They're showing us Earth. They're reading the Bible at certain points and reading Genesis and they're even talking about the firmament, which I found that ironic, as they're speaking about that as they are deceiving the world about what the world is and going against the Father's truth of creation. And so,
and for anybody that's interested, that was in the movie or documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. What Josh was talking about.
Yeah, watch that, and you'll see exactly where this image came from.
Yep.
And then they took that when they went to the moon and they were making these really high quality photos. I took that exact same shot from the window and placed it up in the background, and people could not tell me which one was the real Earth in the background. It's exactly the same, because when you look at it up close, the cloud patterns match. All they've done was sort of blur it out, put it off in the distance. The camera's not focused on it. And that's why Rob Skiba was doing this back in the early days. He was somebody that was doing this stuff live. He would do live videos, go to NASA's website, take their photos, adjust the levels, and you would see a box appear around the moon. And people are like, well, Photoshop didn't exist back then. They couldn't have done that. Well, the term cut and paste literally comes from cutting and pasting photos. So that's what they did. They would cut and paste it, and that wouldn't show up when you take a picture and you put that on there right away. But when you put that on the internet, there's a little bit of evidence and you adjust the levels, you can see where that was literally cut and pasted into that image that they had, that original photo way back in the day. So that's how they did it. It's pretty cool.
What do you think about this comment? Earth would have been a lot bigger than that at that distance.
Yes, it would look bigger because it's allegedly, they say it's so much bigger than the moon. It would look quite large. And it's interesting that they did not take their camera and just sit there and go from the moon, like, look, there's what we've never seen before. There it is, moving, and stars in the background. So as a reference, so you could see that,
Yep.
that would have been so awesome. Like, that would have been my only goal if I went there, was to turn around, look at that, maybe look at the sunlight, see the sun doing all these things. And all they did was film each other bouncing around, look like they're hanging on, wire harnesses bouncing around. That was it. And they went back and forth. And that was all they did. They never took that camera and just went, except for one time I was watching their footage and the camera, somehow the tripod, just everything went up and they're looking straight up and the astronauts are talking and then they go, uh-oh, they kind of realize they messed up and they said, it looks like we're Earth gazing now. And but you couldn't see the Earth. I was like, where's the Earth? If they're Earth gazing, you should see this, because they were on the moon, the side of the moon facing the Earth that's always facing the Earth. So their heads, if we could zoom in, we'd have just seen the top of their heads. So they would have had to have taken their camera to look up at the Earth, and they just never thought to do that. But somehow it's in the background of this picture, almost as if it's over the horizon and not directly over their heads. So really shady stuff happens when you go to this moon. Can't be refraction because there's no atmosphere. And of course, now they're saying there is atmosphere. So
because now they're saying the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah. So just the really cool stuff. I mean, the history of faking space is what really, it was fascinating to me. Diving into this and looking back at the early days, we talked about them faking the stars. The Air Force, and my dad was in the Air Force. I have a lot of respect for people that have served in the Air Force and done the things they've done, spent time away from their family. Yep. And one of those people was Joe Kittinger. He was, when I was looking into this, I was like, man, this guy's my hero. He's done a lot. He was the Felix Baumgartner before his day. He was he went higher than any man and jumped out, or had gone and jumped out of his little capsule and parachuted down, just like Felix Baumgartner way back when. And here he is going and showing us footage of the stars from heights that we send weather balloons today. He went up in a balloon, and there's the image, the one they captured. This is not a photo. This is from a video. I took a screenshot of the video. The moon looks like the cat in Alice in Wonderland. That's every time I see it, that's what I think.
That's not CGI,
yeah.
Josh. That's very realistic.
And this was from the British Faith, a trustworthy news organization back then. A lot of people say that's a real honest one. And even in the description, it says that starry night, or that shot of the starry sky, including the moon, was taken from the capsule. And that's according to the U.S. Air Force. And that's why you no longer see stars in space. Anytime we go to the moon, never going to see stars around the Earth. And I could, meanwhile, here on Earth, when the moon's lit up outside, take a photo and get the stars in the background, and the moon should be brighter than the Earth, given that the Earth is mostly water, they say. And this one, I believe, is from China with the purple-looking Earth. Doesn't really look like they're trying too hard on that one, but that is what you get with these people that are faking our reality. And they begin to do things like Project Echo that you don't hear about anymore. But look at this balloon. If you guys can see that, that is a car parked in front of it and little people standing there. They look so small. That's impressive that they made that. Like, that's real. They actually made that balloon and sent that 1,000 miles above Earth. And that's what they told us. Yeah. And 1,000 miles, and it was filled with helium or hydrogen. I can't remember what they used. They're the largest consumer of helium, but they sent this thing up and they kind of like folded it up. Have you ever tried to fold up a tent and put it back in the bag? It never fits. They took that massive thing and put it in this little rocket that looks like it's about the size of the Go Fast rocket. I don't know how they fit it in there, but they did. And they launched this thing up 1,000 miles, and its goal was to inflate it and have it floating up, in space, because it's full of helium. It would float up in space. And then they were going to use that to bounce signals off of. So that was their goal, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been about 5 years since I looked into this. But the reason it didn't stay up, they said, was because it popped. It filled up too quickly. It popped. It came back down to Earth. The problem with this narrative, again, using science, put a helium balloon in a vacuum chamber. Turn it on. When it becomes a vacuum, well, the balloon, if it doesn't explode, if the balloon itself does not explode, it's going to sink. Okay. Surely they would have known this. Surely they would have tested helium balloons in a vacuum before they sent a multi-million-dollar balloon in a rocket, however much it cost back then. I'm sure it was equivalent to millions today. Yep. And it came back down and landed near where it took off, because the world is stationary. And even if they did go 1,000 miles, I mean, they're always going up and coming right back down near where they landed. So
yeah, I've been on a hot air balloon ride in Asheville on me and my wife's 2nd anniversary, and we didn't end up 1,000 miles away from where we took off. I mean, it was, I don't know how many miles, but we were not far from where we took off.
Yeah, and you could levitate.
Stationary.
That's what they were trying to do when they were doing balloons back in the day. They were trying to. There was an experiment. They were like, we're going to get up in these balloons, get a certain height, and just wait for the world to rotate beneath them. And I mean, 3 days later, they're like, okay, we give up. I mean, like, I don't know how long it was later. they realized you can't do that. It's not like no amount of time passing would ever allow the Earth to rotate underneath you. Even if, I mean, go to the North Pole and do it. It should be spinning beneath you. These things have never been done for a reason because the world is not moving. But yeah, that's part of some of the cool early missions in the early days. And then let me see if I can find my slides. Here's the next one. You've got Joe Kittinger on the left. This guy, I've actually reached out to him and I tried to get him to, I wanted to see if he would share his testimony about what he saw when he was up there. And he emailed back. I accidentally emailed him from my Flat Earth Brothers email. And so he's like, oh, great, Flat Earther. I can't tell them the truth. He's like, you'll have to read my book. And I was like, darn it. I was hoping to really have a good conversation with him before he passes on. He's an older man now, but he was the guy that did this back in 1960. And then Felix Baumgartner in did I put 2021? That was like 2012 or 2014.
Yeah, I think one of those, somewhere in there.
I copied that from the internet and they were wrong.
But that's the one, that picture right there is actually the one that's not televised because you see the horizon is flat behind him.
Yeah.
But the one that was televised and where they go out of their way and say, look at the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, yeah, you wouldn't see the curve from there. He was only 24 miles up. And we've seen flat footage from SpaceX at way higher. And even our own balloons go that high that we send up with cameras. And we've seen flatness from there. And what's weird, I had never heard of this other guy, Alan Eustace. He's broken the record of Felix Baumgartner.
Huh.
And Felix Baumgartner, again, the date's wrong. I should have caught that. But 2014, I think, or 2012. Was it 2014 that he did his? I think it was around that time. But this guy went up 25 miles. So 25 miles, that's as high as anyone's ever gone and came back. And in my opinion, I think these guys are going up higher than probably anybody, most people in existence. I mean, because the other people we think are going there, they're really not. They're just kind of, if they are in the rockets, they're going the little rainbow path. I doubt they're going that high.
Parabolic.
Yeah. So pretty cool. That would actually be really scary going up that high and jumping. So props to these guys for doing that. Woo. They didn't almost drown because they actually went somewhere.
They didn't need a snorkel.
Yeah, they didn't. But yeah, earlier we were talking about the weird connections and stuff. And yeah, I think I put that slide in here. That was, the picture from Von Braun's book where he mentioned Elon in his thing. He said that human colonists on Mars will be led by a person given the title Elon. And that was back in 1952 when he wrote that. So, and he knew about the plan. This is a guy that before he died knew about the plan. And so it's interesting to me to think he knows about the plan. Here he is writing a book and he's putting some of the plans in the book. And I think that's how we get a lot of predictive programming is you have these people in high places that they know the plans and they're just going to put it in there. It's like, well, I'm out of ideas. Let me put some of this stuff into the script, into a Simpson episode or whatever it is. And that's why you see things like this. This is one of Von Braun's model rockets, and you've got it looking exactly like the almost exactly like the SpaceX rockets.
I've never seen that picture before.
Yeah,
that's out of that book?
It's out of one of Von Braun's sketches. I was looking up all of his models and things, and there it is. Looks just like the whole
crazy
Falcon 9.
Looks identical almost.
Yeah, it's freaky. So you just got all of these different things coming together. There it is. Oh,
that's like self-fulfilling prophecy, basically.
Yeah. And then the whole asteroid threat, because that's one of the things Von Braun talked about. He talked about the Russian threat and the asteroid threat. And I believe they've been practicing these things for a while. And that's why when they have those lights in the sky, it looks like fireworks because that's what it is. And you see these, what looked like old firework capsules here, you just crash landing. And somebody said, heck, what if those are what stars look like? And when they fall down, that's what we see. Like what if they are these literally, they die out, they burn out and they fall. I'm like, that'd be kind of a cool theory. But I believe they're faking launching these things out for the asteroid threat and whatever else. I don't know how they're going to pull these things off, but all they got to do is show it on the news. Lights in the sky, guys. Here it is.
People believe it.
Real, yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of deceptive things in the work, but again, that's why I like this quote. Kind of keeps you humble. Is let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise, which we all wanted to be, we all thought we were at one point. That seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yahuwah, for it is written, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And that's what we're doing. We're exposing the craftiness of these people who are against the Father's wisdom. And so when you look at the worldly wisdom, you want to find it, go to a science museum, a science place where they have all these things. It's always space and dinosaurs. Those are their two main events. And they force that narrative down your throats, and always millions and billions of years, when we have scientific proof that even the specimens that they find of these dinosaurs aren't millions of years old. They're thousands, because they have soft tissue. They have blood clots in their bones, proving that they drown on every continent. So there's lots of cool things that destroy their narrative, and that's the stuff that's being silenced. That's the kind of science. The real science is the stuff that's been hidden and silenced, and you can repeat any of the challenges that we've had on here and prove all things, because that's how you're going to really get to the truth of creation.
Prove all things and test the globe for yourself. Don't trust the science, even though we said it jokingly earlier.
Yeah.
Test it for yourself.
Yeah, so that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Is that all you got, brother?
Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah, I didn't have as much time. I've been doing so many controversial studies that I keep finding some crazy stuff, man. I'm telling you, like I keep going, why is this video not coming together? I want to put this out there, and then I'll find something new, and I'm like, okay, that's it. And then I'll find something else every single time. So I'm trying to be patient. That's not good. That's not one of my strong points is it's not being patient. All right. Any questions, guys? I think you guys have been joining in. This has been fun talking about fake space. It's been a while since I've talked about the fake space. The faking of space.
You're there right now. What are you talking about? There you are.
Yeah. I thought about I need to learn how to do virtual augmented reality live so I could be like them. That'd be cool. It's probably not really that hard.
Dave Weiss looks pretty good at it. He's had a lot of practice.
Yeah, he sits on a yoga ball so he can kind of bounce around.
Somebody said something funny. Hope you get back to Earth by Sunday, Josh.
I'm trying. We're waiting on the dragon. We got the dragon
to bring you back.
Yeah.
Here's a question somebody asked. What do you think the ISS is?
What do I think it is?
Do you think it's holographic?
I want to. Yeah. Let me see if I can find my footage. I can share my screen. I can show you. I've done a video about this, and oops, where's StreamYard? I've got so many tabs pulled up for this. I'll start getting rid of some. Let me see. I will show you some footage real quick. I'm glad they asked because I'd forgotten about that. Share screen. All right, now share screen.
You're already sharing one already. I don't know if that'll mess it up.
Okay,
maybe it won't.
Entire screen. If I just do entire screen, that might be better. All right. So sharing. Let me see. Make sure I know which tab this is. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I still see the old where you had the scripture, the other presentation.
Oh, let me remove that. Do I have to remove that? How do I do that?
I think so. Maybe stop screen share.
Let's see. Oops.
We'll get it figured out.
Oh, wait. I think it says Chrome has lost its permissions to capture screen. There's something I have to do in system preferences. And so you can entertain them while I'm doing this. I forgot how to do this. Let me see. System preferences and go to, I've done this before, but somehow it's stopped it. System preferences, this screen. Let's see. Oops. Okay. So go to Chrome. It says, where's it at? Camera. There it is. Camera, Chrome. Should be good. It says it's good. I don't know why it's not doing it. Screen recording. There it is. All right. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on mine. I'm still seeing the old presentation.
Okay, it should be good. Oh, I'm just now fixing the settings. Oops. So let's see if it lets me share now. I'm going to try. Share screen. Entire screen. Nope, still saying go to it. To fix it, go to System Preferences, unlock the screen by selecting the lock. Check Google Chrome. If it's already checked, then uncheck and recheck. Okay, that's what I got to do. Sorry, I'm not good with direction, guys. Uncheck it and recheck it. All systems are almost nominal. So
we're having some ISS glitches.
Yep. Zoom. It only gives me Zoom. Where is not being able to find it? Over here, there's a video delay because of how far away we are.
This is what happens when you have 100 tabs open at the same
time. Later. I don't know why it's not. Usually it shows me Google Chrome and I can make that something I can screen record with. There it is. Uncheck. Well, now I can't quit Chrome and reopen it or I'll lose the Hangout. Later. And then boom. Later. Okay, now let me try. Maybe it'll work now. If it doesn't work now, I'll just send a link in the comments or something. Share screen, entire window. Nope. Okay, I tried. If I do it, it makes me restart Chrome, and so it won't work. Darn. But yeah, I've got a video where we looked at the ISS, and you can see. Maybe I can paste that into the comments here into the chat, so you can check that out yourself. It's a good breakdown of what I believe they're doing when they're filming this stuff from the ground level. The thing that we see, Babylonian technology, a new trick. That's why it wasn't always there. And then one day I was like, oh, look, there it is. Now you can track it. Let me go to the video itself and paste this into the comments. If nobody blocks me as a spammer. There you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's the video. So, yeah, good question. I wish I could share what I have, but somehow StreamYard updated or something. I don't know what happened.
No worries. This was a great show.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Exposing the liars. All right.
When I have any other question, I guess we'll jump off here and let Josh continue his scientific research on the ISS.
Yep, lots of science up here. Everything's nominal. Oh man, somebody late. Jonah is late. Sorry, Jonah. You'll have to buy this when it comes out on DVD.
NASA.gov or SpaceX.org.
Do I have any thoughts on Starlink? Yeah, I've looking up and seeing stuff because we live out in the country where there's no light pollution. I have a great view of the firmament and the things they have up there above it, trying to fly around. And I've seen things go all different directions, never in the exact path that they should. And to steer things around that they have floating up there on balloons, they don't have thrust that makes them go different ways. They tell you that they make them change elevation because of the jet streams. If they want to go one direction, they just increase the elevation and it can change its direction based on those jet streams, the four winds that the Bible talks about that we're calling jet streams and things. It's biblical stuff. You look at the weather. If you've got the Flat Earth, Sun, and Moon app, you can see how the weather works, and they can adjust their height of these things that are flying around. And that's why they go in all sorts of different directions. They don't just go east to west like they should. And they also wouldn't factor in the other motions of Earth. Again, our rotation is the slowest motion. It's a snail compared to the faster ones. Like I'm talking probably slower than a snail if you compare it to the 500,000 miles per hour through space, to 66,600 around the sun. And there's never been any combustion speed to match that. But we have satellites that are thousands of miles away, they say, just floating there looking at Earth, geostationary satellites. And somehow they're keeping up with all those speeds at the same time. And people say, well, it's like being on a train. No, trains go one direction. We're moving like this while rotating. And so it's just the math, there's just no way to figure that out. We don't have the combustion speeds to do what they say we're doing. The Starlink things, probably balloon technology or a way that they're trying to distract you and hide you from the signs and appointed times these stars were originally meant for, the luminaries, the lights above placed in the firmament for appointed times. And I've also wondered this too. This could just sound really dumb, but like you see those little lights that the satellite, what they tell us are satellites, look like stars moving through the sky. What if there's really stars up there, wandering stars that are moving in these last days? and then they invent the satellite lie just so that we can go, oh, it's a satellite. You know, like there's this new wandering star because it just looks like a small star moving through the sky up there. And so I'm like, what if it's kind of like a planet, but not one of the chief stars, just a regular star actually moving, because no one's ever filmed them from the ISS, from ground level, except for the flat earth dude, Kenny. He filmed one and it passed in front of the moon and it was attached to a balloon. So that's the only one I've ever seen transit the moon. You never see them transit the moon except for that one. And there's thousands.
Supposed to be thousands of them up there. There's your question in the chat, Josh.
Yeah. Do I believe in 2 Thessalonians when it's speaking of the Project Bluebeam? Do I believe that it is speaking of Project Bluebeam, fake alien invasion, or just all deceptions as a whole? That's a really good question. Let me pull that up so I can.
I got the verse if you want me to read it. And for this reason, Elohim sends them a working of delusion for them to believe the falsehood or lie.
Wow, yeah. Sends them a falsehood. Did it say falsehood? Let me pull that up. 2 Thessalonians.
Yeah, the one I read says falsehood, but I believe it says lie in the King James and other similar versions. I mean, that could be true.
Yeah.
Possible.
A strong delusion. Yeah, it sounds like one delusion that they believe a lie.
Verse 12 also. Got to get that in there. In order that all should be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in the unrighteousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unrighteousness, doing things that are wrong and having in pleasure in that. And that's part of the study I've been doing lately is just look out for those lawless people, the ones who they pass it off like the Pope. All of the things that they do, all their practices are lawless. I mean, they are going against the Father's commandments. They're going against the greatest commandments, the first of all commandments. They're going against every single thing that the Father told us not to do. Necromancy, which is, they're praying to these dead saints to beatify them, which means that's how they become canonized and become a saint. They're doing all of these weird practices that are obviously like directly against the commandments, and calling no man father. We call the Pope Holy Father, like these people who are taking pleasure in this unrighteousness and mixing with Rome and all the false teachings of Rome. I mean, there's just so much there. But yeah, that question there opens up a lot of different types of deceptions, but it's a strong delusion for sure. And I think the entire world, you see that pattern throughout the word, being deceived. Right. I mean, right after they got set free out of Egypt, they're deceived by, pagan worshiping and things like it's like constantly. And I remember reading these things and thinking that'll never happen to me. I'll never believe in some strong delusion. And here I was believing that the world was a space pair in a vacuum flying at speeds that are ridiculous. I mean, it's humbling. I think that's why so many of us are humble now. And when we have our gathering on Sunday, it's the most humble people because we know we were one of the people that was a part of that system, that deceived great delusion type of system where we were all believing it. We loved truth, we thought, but it's a new level. It's turning with all your heart. And the people that are doing that are the ones that are starting to see the truth, that are going back to Father and really giving him all their heart and saying, I'm ready. I'm ready for truth.
Oh man, on that we had to end because I need to jump off here and handle some business. So
all right, brother.
This was an awesome show. Thanks again for everybody in the chat. You're always bringing the fire with the awesome comments and the great questions. So y'all have an amazing rest of your day, and adios and shalom.
See you guys.